because my email's buggered up this morning.
I'm doing it right now.
Gracias.
There you go. And to Cheryl's point, I have found an installation guide to hopefully help with this. And so I'm going to stick that in our document. And this is the San Carlos Computer Club, and I have hit the YouTube button. If anybody's interested, this is us right here. This is the whole group. I'm Scott from International Computer Solutions, and we should have officially started 3 minutes ago, but we're still getting it together here. How to install Streamio on a Fire Stick Android TV.
Okay, it's a Fire TV, because I had it installed on my Fire TV. Okay, are we talking about this now, or are we talking about Chester's Outlook?
Oh, I don't care what order we go in. This is just a guide that I was gonna stick in here so we could look at it to see how helpful it would be.
Okay, well, the story goes like this. We're watching The Big Bang Theory, and we've been watching it on our Fire TV on Streamio. It's been going fine.
No.
The other day, we log in to do...
Streamio was on Fire Stick, not Fire TV.
I'll fight with my husband later. We were on Fire TV where I had the Streamio installed, and we've been watching it up until 2 days ago when it was the next episode in the series said no streaming available.
No add-ons.
No add-ons, no torrents, nothing available.
Okay.
So I uninstalled it off of my Fire TV because Streamio has not been working very well, and I tried to update it and everything, so I just finally uninstalled it. So now I have to figure out how to install it again. Meanwhile, we plug our Fire Stick into our Fire TV, and on that Streamio, it works fine.
Sure.
So what the heck happened to our Streamio that we lost all our torrents, we lost all our add-ons, I guess?
Yeah, I don't, well, actually, I don't know if I can answer that. I can, in fact, give me a second. I'm just realizing I'm probably echoing all over the YouTube video. Let me turn off this volume here. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
just
fine. Great. Okay, but I can enlighten you to some things about this, the way this stuff works. First of all, Fire Stick is no more reliable than any Android device in your life. So losing settings doesn't surprise me in an Android world. You've experienced it in an iPhone world before too. It does happen from time to time. These programs rely on settings, which rely on files and folders, which rely on the technology that stores files and folders not to hiccup, and that stuff hiccups, and you run into problems that are unexplainable. That being said, the fix for those kinds of problems are exactly like what Cheryl did. You uninstall, you reinstall, you sign in. Did you sign in?
We can't figure out if we ever signed in.
No, we're not signing.
It looks like there's a Gmail or a Facebook sign in.
Well, I don't know if I would associate because we all come from this kind of old school mentality about the applications that we're using. I have a Google account simply for signing into Streamio. I use an email address that I set up specifically so I could sign into something like Streamio without it being attached to any of my other accounts. Now, you don't have to go that far. You could use your email address and sign up and not use Google authentication. But that's all how you decide to do it. Now, let me say, I encourage you to have a Streamio account, because when you have a Streamio account, then you can go from a PC where you've set things up like the plugins that matter to you, and they synchronize over to any Streamio that you sign into. So what I'm getting at with this is it's a little cumbersome. I can talk you through how to get your plugins back in and how to find the app to install. But what is really much easier, more straightforward, is to have Streamio running on your laptop. And you set up your plugins and everything there under your Streamio account. And then when you have to install Streamio on a new device, all you have to do is sign in, and all that stuff comes over automatically. So you're not trying to install plugins on a Fire Stick or an Android device. Yeah, Judy.
Scott, normally when you're speaking, your picture is big. The only thing I see now is Cheryl.
It's because she's special.
But that's what
know.
I've been trying to make myself smaller, but I'm huge.
It was Scott's doing.
It was my doing. I made you center stage so we could watch you eat breakfast. No, I just hit the pin button without thinking. And, I'm just talking verbosely about things that I love, like technology, and not paying attention to what's happening on the screen. Anyway, so there's that. So I encourage you to have a Streamio account because it makes it just easier for you because you can keep all those settings in a place, and then all you have to do is sign in to get those settings back. If the stick is working,
Do you have to use a Gmail account
No.
for creating a Stremio account?
Any email.
No, you
Okay,
just any
so-
email, yeah. Bill's right there. And Bill,
Yeah,
I think
so-
you've got a Streamio account. I feel like you've used one in the past.
So do I, but he doesn't seem to remember. But anyways, we can work on that. But set it up on a laptop, or I guess laptop, because you can't use it on the iPad.
Well, and this is simply to get plugins, these nefarious kinds of things, all those aligned correctly, because doing that on a platform like a Fire TV is cumbersome. You're using a remote. Maybe you'll even, like for myself, I'll hook up a Bluetooth keyboard to my Fire Stick because I may want to do do setups right there, and it's cumbersome without a keyboard.
And the other thing you said was that you use a separate Gmail account for.
I do.
Awesome. I think we should set one up that both of us can access, and we'll use it. So use a new Gmail account, set it up first, then set up Stremio on that account. And then you're going to talk us through how to put the add-ons in.
Okay, well, and keep in mind, Cheryl, your question is turned into 3 parts at that point, because you're going to be setting up a new email account that has nothing to do with this, except that you're going to be setting up a new Streamio account, which really has nothing to do with getting Streamio installed in the Fire TV. And when you are, then you'll be setting up your plugins in like a laptop, which still doesn't get Streamio on the Fire TV. And so getting Streamio on the Fire TV actually ends up being the easiest out of all this stuff to do. And I can talk you through that fairly simply. And I think...
Okay, I tried this, and I used Downloader.
Yep.
And it was not simple. And you're using a Fire Stick remote, which you try to log in on things, and it was really, really hard.
Okay, well, to install Streamio, it won't require any kind of login. But to after it's installed, you will have to log into your account. Now, Streamio has, in their latest versions, a QR code that appears. And you can follow that QR code to do the authentication on your mobile device. But you have to obviously get Streamio installed in the first place before you can do that. So the places, and if you've got a fairly recent Fire installation, you're probably running on the most recent version of the software. And what I've noticed, and you'll see it here on my screen now, is that their install unknown apps actually classifies things now and keeps track of them. So you might need to turn on install unknown apps to get it in, and then on off. Yeah, and then tell it that it's okay for it to install unknown apps. So install unknown apps needs to be turned on, and then when you go to run downloader, it also has to be turned on for installing. I may not be explaining this correct. In the past, there was a switch that you would turn on, and after that switch, apps from anywhere could be installed. You didn't have to get them from the App Store. In the most recent change, and this is my own observation, what I see is that you have to turn on install unknown apps, that switch. But then after that switch is thrown, you'll be able to install downloader. And then downloader will also need to be switched on for installing unknown apps.
So where do you turn on this install unknown apps?
Okay, for you to do this, you need to go into developer options.
Developer options, right.
Okay. And you're not going to find it listed anywhere. So you're welcome to write it down, but those aren't words you're looking for.
Right.
So what you would do is you'd go into settings, under My Fire TV, under About. Then you would click the OK button on your remote 7 times. And it will give you messages at the bottom of the screen saying, if you hit this one more time, you'll be in developer mode. If you're like me, you'll have hit it so quickly, so many times, it'll say, okay, you're in developer mode.
Cool.
In this link, right in this section, there's a step-by-step guide to enable developer options. But that is the essential things you do. You go to About, you click it 7 times, developer options is turned on, and then under developer options, you're going to find install unknown apps and apps from unknown sources. And it will look similar to what's here on the screen. Now you can use downloader to download Streamio and let it install successfully. So there's two. This is the thing that's changed from what I've observed. Before it was one switch, and now it's 2 switches. It's the main switch to say I'll install from anywhere, and then the secondary switch is based on the thing that you installed, the downloader or the other app store that you might have installed. That other switch is telling that app is okay to install from unknown sources. As you can imagine, downloader's not going to keep a list of what it thinks is safe or not. It's not an app store, but it will still try to install software, and so it needs to be given the secondary permission. If you installed downloader, if you flipped the first switch, installed downloader, downloaded Streamio, and tried to install it, you would immediately get a security message from Fire Stick saying downloader is not allowed to install applications. It wouldn't say that verbatim, but that's essentially what it would. And it would give you an option to go to settings to turn on downloader's ability to install unknown applications. If this is working the way I've observed it to be working, then what Fire TV has done is given you another level of security that you didn't have before. Before it was an all or nothing. Before, if you flipped the switch, then there was the potential for you to get something installed that could install other things. Like you could traverse across a website that would recognize it as a Fire TV. And I don't know of any particular compromise, but there are compromises out there. I'm certain everything has compromises. So you go across a website on your Fire TV and it recognizes it's a Fire TV. It pulls out that handful toolkit that it knows how to compromise your website. And one of the first things a malicious website will do is it will prompt your device to download other malicious stuff. In this aspect, that first switch would be possible to install without your permission. If you'd flipped that first switch, that's the security risk. Is that you've basically said all or nothing. I want all unknown things to be allowed to be installed, or only the stuff from the Amazon App Store. Now with this latest change, you've got to go through 2 switches, and the second switch is per an app that's installed. So if the app shows that it has the ability to install stuff, then it also has to be turned on with the ability to install stuff.
So I have Downloader already installed. How do I turn that switch on in Downloader? Is it under settings or something, or?
You go back to install unknown software in your settings, or you follow it through. It should have a button that takes you to settings, but if you look at my screen now, this is where you want to go back to, is unknown applications, and you'll see the programs that have the ability to install, and you'll select Downloader, and it'll have a switch to turn it on.
If I don't see Downloader there, how do I get it there?
You should, if it's not there, then you haven't installed Downloader. Because when you install an app that has the potential of this is the idea. Let me say that again. This is the idea of this change. If you install an application that has the potential of installing other applications, then it should be listed here so that you can choose whether it has that ability or not. I'm not guaranteeing every app is doing that, but that's what this paradigm is all about. And Fred, you have your hand up for a question. Is it related to this?
Quick question. You keep referring to Fire TV. Does this also work for the Fire Stick?
You know what? I'm doing this wrong because Cheryl is asking specifically about the Fire TV, and I'm talking in general about the Fire Stick. I am assuming that it's the same setup. So this definitely works for the Fire Stick, and I'm assuming this works for the Fire TV as well because they're based on the same framework.
Yeah, it's pretty similar, Fred. I'm able to go from my Fire Stick to my Fire TV and figure things out pretty well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in fact, in my opinion, I haven't read anything on this, but just with the experience I've had with technology, what I would imagine is one or the other, their upgrade paths are going to be determined by the platform they're in. I don't think
Downloader gives me choices of what I'm installing Stremio on, and it's got Sony TV and it's got names of different TVs. It does not have Fire TV or Amazon TV. It has Apple, but not those two.
No,
so then I have to go to the Android. I believe is the one we were trying was Android TV.
You're absolutely right. In fact, let me throw that up on my screen because you're right to ask about that in this. And in these instructions, I didn't get all the way down to the bottom, but I am certain. Streamio.com, download. Here it is. It is laid out on its instructions which one you're looking for. Streamio, ARM. That's what you're looking for right there. It says in the name ARM, and it will start out with saying you can get it on Google Play, and the next one after that is the one you're looking at. So I'm going to go to Streamio right now, and go to downloads, and scroll down here looking for Android TV, Android on mobile. Now both of these should run. One has a different interface than the other. And one of them, I think it's the Android TV, requires you to sign in with a Streamio account. I think the Android for mobile, at least the last version I looked at, didn't require you to sign in. And if that's not true, then I've got them reversed.
So do I have to go to Google Play?
No. You notice over here in the column to the right?
Okay.
If you're not using Google Play, then you're using one of these downloads. And for the Fire Stick, you're using the ARM, not the ARM 64, not the x86. You're using the ARM pack. It's typically the first one in the list.
Okay.
My recommendation would be Android TV. If I remember right, you definitely need to have a Streamio account to use that.
Okay. Okay.
And then after that, you want to get your plugin set up. And the one that I find most useful is Torrentino. And I Google that whenever I do this. Torrentino and Streamio. You can see it popping up as a suggested search. Right here, this top one that pops up is what allows you to install this in your locally installed Streamio. You can go through here and you can refine this down to video sizes and providers. You can pull out all the foreign languages that you're not interested in. You can decide how you want it seated or sorted by quality, then seater. That's how many. It's how high a quality and then how many people have it. Quality and then size, how high a quality and how big the file is. Just by the seaters is how many people are out there with the, like who has the most of a particular file, or by size, biggest to smallest. So you can set these settings into this plugin, and when you hit install, then it will pull up your Streamio installation for that device. I'm realizing I haven't pulled up Streamio on this computer in a while. I don't know what's going to happen next. It's all just going to... Is it even trying? Oh, here it is. It's hopping. I'm on a Macintosh. It's hopping. It's an amazing amount of time. Of course, I am doing a lot of other stuff at the same time, so that could be related to it. All right, where is it now? Oh, it's on a different window. Hold on a second. Are we on a screen? Oh, good. You can see it. And so this is what it does. When you click on it, I'm on a Macintosh. This would be the same experience on a Windows machine. And you just click install. And that adds it to your local client. In this case, my Macintosh Streamio client. It's a desktop client. It's not the one you downloaded for Fire TV. It's the one I downloaded for Macintosh. But now that plugin is installed in it, and I'm logged in under my Streamio account, and that plugin is now synchronized with the Streamio account, so that I can go over to the Fire TV and I can sign in with my Streamio account, and everything comes along with it. My history, my continue watching history, all of this that's popping up on the screen right now. I didn't watch this on my Macintosh. I'm watching this on my Fire Stick over in the living room. But because I opened up Streamio on my Macintosh, signed into my Streamio account, I'm having like a Netflix experience. The history of what I've done is right there in front of me.
Well, see, that's why I think we must have an account, because our continue watching always shows up on the Fire Stick, on the Fire TV. Every time I log in, I pull up Streamio, it's all there.
So this step, so what I would hypothesize is that something got screwed up on your Fire Stick. It reinstalling and signing in will fix the problem. And this step may not even be necessary as long as you've got a Streamio account that's working on your other devices. Then just signing in on the newly installed Streamio will bring all these settings over. And this step is unnecessary because you've already done it at one point.
Yeah, and it could be that it's in our Amazon. It's under the Amazon thing, because it's an Amazon Fire Stick, it's an Amazon TV, and we have to use an Amazon account to download apps and stuff.
So you might have chose the same Gmail account, the same as
Yeah.
you use for Amazon, because they aren't actually related. You're the one that's relating them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing about the account you use with Amazon that is directly related to any of the apps that you install in your Fire TV. Now Amazon would want you to think that everything's related to your Amazon account. So you want to, like Amazon Photos is an Amazon account, right? So if you have a screensaver of all your photos from your Amazon, that of course is an Amazon account that's doing it. If you're using Prime and watching Amazon Prime videos, of course that's the Amazon account. But these other apps that you put on the Fire TV, your Netflix account isn't related to Amazon other than their own relationship. They've worked out their own relationship for why it's so easy for you to use Netflix on an Amazon Fire TV. But those are contractual issues, not technical issues.
Okay, well, on that note, we might be moving on to my next one.
All right.
If everybody's okay with Fire Stick moving away. So when we came home from our little road trip adventure, which we did 10 states, we saw 12 San Carlos residents in those 10 states and 8,150 kilometers later, 28 days, we arrived home. Meanwhile, everything that I was recording on my TV didn't work since July 31st. On July 31st, our Shaw, which is Rogers in Canada, whatever, TV provider, changed from having a cable box with a coax cable come into our home to a over the internet streaming of our TV package. And so the box that we had with the coax cable doesn't work. You can see the TV guide, you can see everything, but there's no audio or video on the TV channels. So I phoned them and the customers say, well, we have to ship you out this thing. I can't pick it up anywhere. No, it has to come by. So 3 days later, it arrives.
Oh, hold on a second. Did you go 3 days without TV?
Actually, we went more than that. But we were watching our news and everything online. I still had my
because you had internet, but you didn't.
Yeah, I had
didn't
internet.
have the service that it's Shaw, right? You didn't have the
Right.
service that you're paying for over 3 days.
We had it for over a month because while we were away, we didn't have it either. You know what I mean? So
you are paying for that TV service. That's a grievance right there, isn't it?
Well, they're crediting me a month of I get $25 plus whatever I pay.
At the very least, you should get something for a month of down TV time. You own things like satellites and cable boxes in the past to guarantee that you have service. That's what they're selling you.
Yeah. So now the other little box arrives and we're supposed to set it up and we do everything we're supposed to. And the same thing happens. There is no TV signal coming through on our internet now. So internet's all set up and everything. Anyways, so then I get the technician and he has to reset to factory settings the box that they mailed me or shipped me.
Which should be ready to go.
Yeah. Anyway, so once they did that, then we have signal coming. So I'm not convinced that they couldn't just, the day I phoned them, reset the old box back. But anyways, so now we have TV and it's a really nice clear picture and everything, but it is coming across our internet. It's not coming across a coax cable.
Now, in other situations like that, they have provided a separate feed of internet specifically for your TV box, your streaming box, because they've moved to that model.
So we've got this tiny little streaming box where before we had this big thing.
Cigarettes.
Yeah, it's about the size of a pack of cigarettes kind of thing. And it just has a power source and then a little HDMI cord into the TV. So it has to be close to the TV, close to a power source. and it has to be visible by your voice
Sure.
activated remote until you get it all set up, and then you can hide it away wherever you want to. So we set it all up, and on it says that I can add my other streaming services, my accounts like Netflix, whatever I have.
It's a Fire TV. It's just from Shaw.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's just the same kind of, yeah. So
That's essentially, I mean, it's just some Chinese box that they've bought and branded as Shaw. They probably built them specifically for Shaw, but there's
Yeah.
nothing special about any of these
Ignite?
devices.
Yeah, it's even called Ignite. Thinking of cigarettes, but anyway, so it's an Ignite TV top box or something. So we're wondering if we can even put Stremio on it.
Yeah, it might be very presumptuous. I mean, because first of all, that box, there's no assumption that you have any administrative or security or privacy settings on that box. That box is equipment that's essentially rented to you for the service that you're... So they're encouraging you to put your apps on it out of convenience, but what you are giving up is your own privacy of what you're doing with your own apps, because you surely don't have control over that when it's their box in your house.
Oh, okay. Because
don't get me wrong.
My next thought was, do we take this to... Can we take this with us?
No. I mean, there may be some of that. You might be able to do some of that technically, but it won't have been set up so that you could take it anywhere except for another place in the region and then have it associated with your internet connection in that region. Right? So the way things like that have shook out in the past have been like it might work for a week and then not work, because you haven't set it up to be authorized in that region, because you don't have to sign into it in the first place. You just plug it in and it works. You reset it and it works. So they're using some kind of authentication based on where you've connected it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have been able to, with a VPN, access my TV apps from Canada, and watch my Canada TV shows and things like that. But they're not live. They're available online for a week without an account, and then after that,
the BBC does stuff like that, and CBS it does stuff like that as well, where they have an online offering that you can get to if you're in that region, if you're allowed to have access to that content in the first place. And the VPN is able to satisfy that you're Canadian and you're signing into it. But this box that you're describing to give you TV, this is a slightly different situation. The box is what's telling the service that it's allowed to receive TV. And the box can only do that by authenticating you in some manner. And if it's not asking you for an account to plug in, a good example would be resetting the box. If all you had to do is reset the box, it came back on and now you have TV. What it's doing is it's recognizing its authentication based on your geographic location and quite literally the physical connection that it has, that fiber or coaxial that's coming into the house has an ID associated with it. And that ID is what's allowing you to watch TV on that box.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it for my 2 topics.
And I would continue to use a Fire Stick just out of the convenience of administrating your own world without screwing with the TV box that they've provided you with. But I would not recommend Fire TV if security and privacy is your issue. Mostly privacy. It's pretty secure. And that is because Amazon is of the same nature as Shaw. They've gotten you to buy this box from them. They could quite literally collect all the information from that box. And one of the distinctions that's happened recently is Apple turning off third parties' access to any of those kinds of information. You've run across this with your iPhone. When you install a new app, many times it'll ask if it's okay to send information about you to the new app. And before this this wasn't before. This wasn't an option, a user option. This was just something that was on or off for the whole phone, if I'm remembering right. This ability for third parties to get access to your metrics from your phone. And now every app has to ask you whether it's okay to share that information. And what they found dramatically was 90% of people asked to share their information with a third-party app say no. Because of course, nobody's going to share by default. And when Apple started turning off sharing by default, it really raised the airs of application developers because they recognize your movements, your behaviors are the new market, the market of information, and that's where they're making most of their money. I don't know if you've noticed, but these streaming services, a lot of them have gotten to a point where you can't pay them enough money to get the advertisements out. The advertisements are their business model. That is the way that they're making money. They will not provide you, and this will happen worse and worse, they will not provide you with a way around advertisements because that's where the majority of their revenue is coming from. It's not you subscribing and watching Game of Thrones. Yeah, HBO is a good example. They've got advertising. They've got an advertising model in that. We'll see, and it's happening right now, is we'll see outfits like what am I trying to say? HBO, and they'll sell you a premium service, but then they'll take like Game of Thrones, we'll probably see this in the future, being licensed to Netflix 2 or 3 seasons, right? And they'll make money off of that. They might license it to another distributor like an Acorn so that you can watch it for free. Acorn's a bad example. Freevie's a good example. So that you can watch it for free and they'll lay advertising on top of it. Advertising is the way all these places are making money. And so tracking what you're doing is very important. And the Fire Stick TV, that's always been the downfall of that device, is that it is quite literally a window into Amazon, but it's also a window into the way you use services. And Amazon can just take advantage of that at any moment. Let's see. I put in let's talk about Chester's Outlook because of last week's discussion of the notifications. Chester, did you get my reply to your email? Because I didn't hear back from you. Are you there? Our call is going to end in 15 minutes. Chester, can you hear me? Okay. I think this might be helpful for all of us. Chester sent me a screenshot. Yeah, Bill.
You said that you run Stremio on a Mac computer?
Sure, I've got a copy of Stremio running on this Macintosh. I don't use it very often, but I've got it.
It's an Apple product, though.
That's right. It's an Apple desktop. Bill, this opens up a great discussion in the difference between the Apple platforms because they're pushing out these incredibly powerful touchscreen computers, and they've got a beautiful keyboard case, which literally makes it a laptop. But they're still handicapping their users by putting this iOS operating system on it. And that means you can't run Stremio's plugins, the ones that we are so affectionate of. The one I demonstrated, those won't come across because they breach the terms of service of the iOS App Store, which a desktop computer running Mac OS is not subject to. Does that clear that up?
Yeah, because I was wondering how come I can't run it on my iPad then if you can run it on a Mac computer. But that answers the question. Different iOS, right?
Yeah.
Different
operating system. And it also answers the question of why is it taking so long for Mac desktop users and laptop users to switch to the touchscreen iPads that can mimic. And I don't know if you guys were paying attention, the last released iPad Pro was the M4 chip. It is the latest, greatest chip from Apple, and you can only buy it right now in an iPad. It's a little disturbing how they are using their dominance in those areas to control where you're going with it. All they'd have to do, in fact, iOS is based on Mac OS. It has been forever, since the beginning. There is no reason we can't run a full-blown Macintosh desktop operating system on our iPads, except Apple doesn't want us to. And so they've built the technology to stop us from doing it. I would buy one right now to run this computer club. In fact, I'm still looking at a MacBook, a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro to run this computer club, because I'm so successful running it off my Mac Mini here at my desk. I want to be able to take that kind of success into Tequilas. But it doesn't have a touch screen, and I live in the real world where I'm touching screens all the time, and it's the one frustrating thing with a MacBook.
What doesn't have the MacBook doesn't.
Or the MacBook Pro or the MacBook Air, anything that's running the Mac desktop, they have strategically kept touch screens off of it. It's infuriating, because it definitely is one of my purchase points. When I'm going to spend over $1,000 on a computer, I want it to have a touch screen. Even if I only use it 10% of the time, 5% of the time, I want to be able to reach up and touch the screen and have it work. I've become accustomed to that. And this is all Apple, the way they're controlling their market, they're controlling their user base. It's working for business. They're making good money doing what they're doing. But technically, I get a bit put off by things that aren't done technically well, because they're good for business.
So there's an article it says this was published on June 3rd, and MacBook with touchscreens, new report hints that they're coming.
Yeah, let's hope. Hope springs eternal. Is that the...
Uh-huh.
Because what you just read is the headline that I've read every year.
I know. And I do reach up to my MacBook and touch the screen and then realize it doesn't work.
Hey, Paul, I see you trying to get our attention, and you've turned off mute, but we can't hear you. No, we can't hear anything. Sorry, it's nothing personal. You just need to go.
You hurt his feelings.
I guess so. I didn't mean to. How much time do we have before going into the other meeting? We might 10 more minutes. Okay. We'll stick around long enough for Paul to try and jump back on before we switch over to the other meeting.
I thought he was saying goodbye.
Was he? Because he was saying...
That's kind of what I got.
He was saying a lot.
And then he waved like he said goodbye, so I don't know.
I hope that's the case, but we'll wait and see what happens. I did want to go back to Chester's. Chester, are you with us now? Chester?
I'm still here.
Oh, you can't do that, man. We all know you're over 80. You can't just disappear.
I was just resting.
Make me nervous. What happened to Chester? So, Chester, I was talking about the email you sent me. And
I think the issue disappeared. It hasn't come back ever since we talked.
Okay. Well, I wanted to make it clear with Outlook. I thought it could help other people. These dismiss buttons, if you don't press them, this notification is going to come back each week, and they're going to stack up. Every time you have something on the calendar, these old notifications will stack up with the new notification.
I must have pressed dismiss all.
And now they've all gone away.
It's gone away.
Yeah. And what you might have been doing is just hitting the X, because a lot of people using Outlook will do
That's
that.
correct. That's correct. I
And-
was just hitting the X.
And that makes the notification go away for the moment, but the next time you go into Outlook, it's going to pop up again. Well, I'm glad that was resolved. That's the only thing about talking about Chester's Outlook that I wanted to cover today. And
Bill has his hand up.
Bill, you have your hand up. Oh, I see how you are. He forgot to put his hand down.
I just got a note from my neighbor in Loma Del Mar that we got 1.84 inches of rain yesterday.
I read on Viva where somebody got 10 inches
10 inches?
or 8 inches. 8 inches.
Yeah, Maggie said she got 8 inches in Villa Hermosa, and
Oh,
then
wow.
everybody else went on and said 1.34, under 1, so it was either very spotty or Maggie was using a very different scale.
Yeah, an inch, 1.84 inches at Loma Del Mar is confirmed by my neighbor.
I think
What?
Maggie had a funnel on top of her rain gauge.
Maybe, I've lived there long enough. I've watched a rain cloud come across the street. I'm sure you guys have had some of those experiences. I could imagine 8 inches in 30 minutes, and then it only hitting a tenth of the town, even less. This little rain cloud, like from Winnie the Pooh, just rolling through San Carlos, drenching areas.
That's how it is here in Colorado, too.
You probably all remember when we got 50 inches.
Wow, are you talking about when we had the flood?
Yes.
Yeah.
It went right through my house.
Yeah, it tore down walls too. It went through. I saw a video of a wall that collapsed and a man-made tidal wave came through. Somebody's living room.
One of the portions of the back wall of Loma Del Mar on the north side collapsed, and a wall of mud went through my neighbor's house.
Wow.
It was quite something.
We were fortunate in the Ranchitos where we were located. We didn't suffer any real damage, but for months you drive around the Ranchitos and you expect to make a right-hand turn, and all of a sudden there's a gaping crevice in front of your car. You're like, oh, I can't drive down that anymore. And we had neighbors a few blocks down. There were pictures of their car encased in mud up to the windows, so they couldn't get the car out. Oh, that was 100-year storm. What I like is how confident developers are, because they have decided to build in that floodplain along the highway. Nobody's concerned about that ever happening again, are they?
Actually, it happened to me twice.
Well, Chester, where you used to live, we'd have a hurricane and it would chuck rocks up over your house onto the street.
That's correct. That was the first one. Jiminy, I think it was called.
Jimena, yes. Yeah, that was horrible. How are we doing for time? Should we, 5 minutes left, should we just move over to the other meeting so we've got it taken care of? I think Jerry's right. Paul's not coming back. I'm just going to start this up so it's ready to go. You guys can come on over when you're ready. Have you got it there in front of you guys? You need me to share the link? Hey, Chester, it's just you and me at the moment.
It's just me, huh?
Yeah. Well, I count too. Okay. Bill's coming in. Cheryl's coming in.
Still have to be let into this one.
What's that?
Still have to be let in.
Yeah, this goes back to those calendar invites. One time a while back, you and I, we mixed up permissions on it, and we never got this one set correctly. So yeah, somebody has to sit here in this second meeting and allow the owner of the second meeting has to sit here and allow everyone into it. Hey Fred, you're still in the other meeting. I'm going to shut it down.
Okay.
Ending the call for everyone. There we go. Now we're in this meeting. Hi everybody. I feel like I just saw you. So we've talked about Cheryl's. We've talked about Chester's. I've rambled on about stuff. Is there any other stuff that we should talk about that we haven't gotten to? Fred, Bill, we haven't heard from you guys.
I had a question. You answered it.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
Come
We
on,
heard from
I'm
Bill.
participating.
Fred,
Do I get a participation medal?
I'm gonna find a trophy and put it up here for you.
Okay, thank you.
A badge. You've earned a badge. You've earned the Computer Club badge. You know, we should do that. We should have badges each week and see how we'll fight for who gets the most badges.
Okay, who's going to say it? We don't need no badges.
Well, I have brought a couple of articles I thought were interesting. If you're a real nerd, you'll probably find them interesting as well. The first one on this list is the size constraint that has been lifted by FAT32. Windows is doing this. They haven't done it yet. They're doing this in the next release of Windows 11. If you've had to format a USB drive, a USB stick, you have had to choose whether it's going to be FAT32, exFAT, NTFS, Apple... What is it? Apple File System? No, Apple. I can't remember it now. It's an acronym. Like APFS, I think is what it's called. Or it's extended journaling. It does not matter. The point is that if you've had to wipe things out on a storage device and lay down a new format, you had these choices. FAT32 was one of them. So the next Windows 11 build will have FAT32 extended to 2 terabytes. Up until recently, it's only been good up to 32 gigabytes. I don't know why this matters. It doesn't. I brought it up because I thought it was interesting. I wanted to poke fun at it because exFAT has been doing terabytes of space for a long time now, and it's the defunct standard is exFAT. So it's interesting that Microsoft is getting their own version of FAT up to speed finally. 30 years ago with Windows 95. That's where the 32 gigabyte limit came from. So this is an article from The Verge, and if you have any interest in this kind of history, they do a great job of going back through it, tell you where we are and how we got here. But the truth is, just about everything that you're going to format is going to be exFAT, or it's going to be native to the framework that you're using. It's going to be native to Macintosh or native to Windows. Native to Windows is the NTFS format. I did some research on exFAT recently to determine external hard drives, and I was led to the belief that an external hard drive should be an exFAT. It should not be NTFS. On Macintosh, it's a little bit more complicated of an issue. They've got a much more intelligent file format that can give you performance gains while having security. exFAT doesn't have any security. So if you wanted to put a folder on an exFAT or a FAT32 drive and limit the access to yourself and no one else that uses your computer, that's not possible with a FAT file system. It's only possible with a more modern, I don't want to say more modern, what do I want to say? A more administrative operating or file format. NTFS is a good example of that because it has layers of security that are associated with it and encrypted. There's no way to get in without satisfying that authentication, without satisfying that encryption. FAT does not contain anything like that. FAT is just a file format. It's almost like a vanilla envelope that you've dropped files into. Anybody that has access to the envelope has access to the files. Macintosh uses file formats that started out based on the Unix operating system, and they have security and performance built into them and redundancy. And so your use of FAT or exFAT, potentially FAT32 in the future, I wouldn't recommend. I'd stay with exFAT. The reason that you would use exFAT on a Macintosh is specifically so that external device can move back and forth. So you can plug it into an Android device, so you can plug it into a Windows device, so you can plug it into another Macintosh. You use exFAT so that you have that kind of flexibility. You don't do it for security. And if you have any questions on formatting devices, this is the time. Otherwise, get a hold of me. I'll help you sort out what's going on. Many times when you go to set up like a USB stick, it'll just pick a format for you. It'll be, when you go to format it, wipe everything off of it, it'll have some default it'll pick for you. And it's based on what size the device is. If you go over, right now in Windows, if you go over the 32 gigabyte limit with the device you're trying to format, say you're trying to format 128 gigabyte USB stick, it will automatically switch itself to exFAT because FAT32 is too small for that size media. I'm going to move on because I've said FAT too many times. And now it doesn't sound like a real word anymore. This is another one that's an interesting thing to bring to people's attention. Microsoft Phone Link. It's basically pointing out that the file transfer, the file sharing is supposed to be working now. You still need an Android phone of 9 or newer. But what this is the ability for you to move files from your phone to your computer. You're basically able to do that thing that Macintosh can do with AirDrop. You're able to just say, I want to send this over to the other device. And you're able to see your phone on your screen. And you're able to run apps on your Windows computer from your phone. This is something that Apple has sorted out. I think they've come very close to perfecting it in the last iterations. Microsoft has been trying to do this for a while. They've had some fairly decent implementations. It was called Phone Link for a while. Now I think it's just called Link. Is it still called? Oh, it was before it was called My Phone. Then it was called Phone Link, and now I think it's called Link. But the idea is that you can have a relationship between your Android phone and your Windows PC in a way that allows you to run apps on your full screen. You're able to see notifications from your phone on your screen. You're able to browse the contents of your phone and grab things off of it and put it on your computer. So if you're interested in doing any of those activities with your Android phone and your Windows computer, this article will talk all about it. I think the thing that's interesting to point out is that it works, because it didn't before. It was all there. They had put this stuff together, but every time I went to use it, it was hit or miss whether it worked or not. And there were features that were available, but only to specific model phones. I don't know if you remember a while back, a couple of years ago, they did a big Microsoft announcement and they had Samsung there with them. This is after they had given up on their own phones. They started embracing Samsung to be the phone link phone. And at that time, only the Samsung phone would do these features. All other phones had a real subset of features, mostly notifications. You could get your notifications. You could listen to your voicemail. But now I think you can go as far as answering calls on your Windows computer, making calls from your Windows computer. And the big thing here is the file sharing, being able to transfer documents back and forth and pictures back and forth seamlessly. It's worth checking out. I don't know if you remember, but a while back, I think it was Richard, turned me on to the file transfer issue. Not the issue, but solution for the issue. And what the issue is, in my mind, I'll reiterate it, is you have a device in front of you that has the information on it. It's a document, it's a picture, whatever it might be, but it's in your hand, and you need to get it on your desktop. And there is an app that Richard recommended to me that I still love using, and I would recommend it to you guys. And I have recommended it to you in the past, and forgive me, I'm looking for the name of it, because it's become one of those things that I just use. Local Send is the name of it. Maybe you can see the icon on my desktop. It's a little fuzzy. It's the one in the middle there, white with the bluish dot, and it says Local Send. And this is a cross-platform app that is open source. You can stick it on your Mac, your Windows, your Android phone, your Apple phone, and you run it on the two devices in which you want to have the transfer. And you just tell it what to move over. It's been very helpful for that one use case. I took a picture here, I need it in a document over there, or I'm writing the email over there and I need the picture, it's over here. It is the most practical solution I've found so far, especially in my world where I'm on Linux, I'm on Windows, I'm on Android, I do all these different frameworks. The Apple stuff works great when you stay in Apple. Hopefully... Oh, go ahead.
Tell me again the name of it, and I couldn't see it when you held it up, but Local Send, and you can put it on phone, you can put it on your laptop?
Yes, it's called Local Send, one word, with a capital S. It's one word, but it's capital L, capital S. And it's got a white icon with a dotted circle, and then inside that circle is a solid circle. Here, I'll try and show it to you again. You see it there. It's in between two different apps. I get as close as I can. It's just going fuzzy this close to the camera.
Okay, back up again, but move over, because you're on the side of the screen. Whoa, right there. Okay. So a dot with lots of dots. Okay, got it.
And I've found it an awesome solution for this one particular use case, and that is getting a file from one platform to another. And that's what this Microsoft Phone Link is supposed to do. Is it's supposed to be the use case, so you got a picture here, you got a document here, and you need it on that computer in front of you. Now, that's what they're saying in this article has been fixed and is now working. But that doesn't indicate that we're going to be able to use that solution for Linux or, for that matter, Macintosh. This is a Windows solution that they're talking about in this article. This Microsoft Phone Link is you have an intimate relationship between this phone device and this Windows computer. Local Send is great because you have dozens of different pieces of equipment in your life, and it will run across all of them.
So that phone link is only for Android phones because Apple has something else.
Um,
The Microsoft
yes,
phone
yeah. I believe it's only Android that we're talking about. I don't think that they have anything yet for iPhone to connect. There's no reason. I feel like there was a period of time in this Microsoft Phone Link development. It's been going on for years now. It's easily 5 years they've been trying to solve this at Microsoft, and what they've put out has been really weak. But I feel like at one point there was a point where an iPhone could somewhat share information with a Windows computer using this methodology. I don't believe it's possible now. I may be wrong. If anybody finds out different, please let me know. I may not have time to come back to this topic at some point and verify. Well, all my topics are very nerdy topics, so I hope you're finding them valuable. The last topic that I've brought today is another very nerdy topic, and this has to do with making old computers work with Windows 11. This is an awesome topic just in general because it admits that everybody's on Windows 10 still. We've had people go to Windows 11 in corporate environments and immediately roll back to Windows 10. They say that Windows 11 adoption is at 30%. And Windows 10 is their support's supposed to go away next year. And it's free. So let that mull around in your brain for a bit. The next version of Windows is free if you have Windows 10 already running, and your computer supports it, of course. So they've done something now recently that it seems like they're shooting themselves in the foot, because what has been available to hackers, to people, enthusiasts that want Windows 11 on their old computer, that the hardware does not necessarily support it, the artificial constraints that have been put in front of it. Up until recently, you've been able to add one line of code to your install, and you could get Windows 11 installed on your old computer. They have taken that away. So not only do they have a lousy market share of Windows 11, they are limiting it to only authentic users. Only people that have hardware that meets the hardware requirements, or they have bought it with Windows 11. Which is, I can only imagine, unfortunate for them. I don't know why they would be... The article doesn't actually enlighten you to why they think this is a good idea when they have such a small adoption rate. But what we all know is that they haven't backed away from their support, their stopping support date in 2025. Which for practical means, there won't be security updates for it. If you're an organization that's still running Windows 10 by next, I think it's April of 2025, you're going to be out of luck with security patches unless you pay a premium to Microsoft. If you're a consumer using Windows 10, you're just out of luck. You're running a computer that will no longer be secure. Practically. I say that practically because more than once Microsoft has pushed out fixes for operating systems they said they would never fix because the security problem was so bad, and they had to recognize that people were still running older versions of their software, that they had to fix it. Apple just recently had to do the same thing again. That's twice since I've been in Alaska. They have pushed out major security fixes for operating systems that are 3 generations behind what's latest. So even though they say they're going to drop support there's an amount of support that they can't get, that they're just fundamentally having to continue to give. Otherwise, it's bad for them. It's bad for their bottom line. Someone this week brought up the example of when we switched over to Windows 8, which is a horrible time period, from Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7 to Windows 8. And I actually did. Is it 7? No, it's 8, I want to say. No, it's 7, I want to say. Because what they did is they recognized a number of programs that the developers were not going to fix. And so they were going to break in Windows. And so Microsoft just fixed them themselves. They had a whole database of specific programs that were taking too long to get running under Windows 7. And so Microsoft just put together development teams to fix those particular programs that were stopping people from moving to Windows 7. So there is a precedence for Microsoft to continue support for Windows 10, but it's not what you hang your business on. And so if you're a small business, you're switching to Windows 11. If you're a large corporation, you're paying premiums while you determine whether going to Windows 11 is the right choice for you. And a lot of businesses know that Windows 12 is around the corner, and they may pay a premium to stay with support for Windows 10 until Windows 12 comes out, so they can just leapfrog a version, which is very common in corporate world. Anyway, this is a fairly in-depth article talking about the ability to install Windows 11 on unauthorized equipment. Authorization is not a security question, other than Microsoft set some security standards for hardware that your older hardware cannot meet. It was never secure in that manner before, and if you put Windows 11 on it, it won't be secure in that manner now. And what Microsoft has said is, instead of allowing you to install Windows 11 without those hardware securities in place, they're just saying you don't get to run Windows 11. It's an artificial constraint. It's funny when you think about us living in a technological world where a company can do whatever it wants because you agreed. It would be very easy for Microsoft to throw up a window and say, you're not as secure as we'd like you to be. Do you agree that that's okay? And you'd say yes, and then you'd run Windows 11 on your hardware that doesn't meet their security requirements. That's a very possible thing to do, and they're taking a very strong position in it. I see Chester's putting his hand up. Chester, go ahead. I have nothing else, so it can be anything. It doesn't have to
Yeah, I run Windows 11, and I don't have any objections to it. I don't necessarily like it compared to 10, but it's fine as far as I'm concerned. What's the problem with people not installing 11?
Well, there's a couple of different areas. The most obvious one is personal preference. A lot of people have become accustomed to 10, and they just don't want to move. 11 has a reputation as being an advertising platform. You've probably seen it, Chester. It's probably the things that you would prefer not to have in Windows 11 are when it pops up and tells you this is a great app for making documents in your start menu. A place that you never expected to see an advertisement before. Or the most insidious one, which you can't get rid of in Windows 10 or 11, is you've used up your Microsoft OneDrive space. And so it's encouraging you to buy OneDrive space. And that shows up in your setup menu when you go into your settings. It shows up every once in a while as a notification in the notifications bar. It shows up in every Windows app that could use OneDrive. It reminds you that you don't have any OneDrive space left. I mean, it masquerades as a convenient way to help you, but what it really is an advertisement for their online services.
Well, I've Word 365, so therefore I get all the OneDrive I
Yes.
want, and I want none, as you know.
Right, but because you pay that subscription fee, you don't see the commercials that I'm mentioning to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And in Windows 10, you can turn off a lot of those commercials. The OneDrive commercial you can't turn off. I have not found a way to turn it off. But the ones that show up in your start menu or in your I've even forgotten the name of it now because we're not using it in Windows 11. The active tiles, that's what it's called. In Windows 10, when you go to the start menu, you can bring up that tiled experience. Sometimes those tiles will tell you how many emails you have. Sometimes it'll show you the most recent photos you've taken. But those active tiles, they're no longer in Windows 11. They're only in Windows 10. And that is a place where you would find advertising in Windows 10. You can turn it off. In the start menu where it lists all your programs, that was another place that you would find advertisements. You can turn that off. In Windows 11, the equivalent is your start menu. You cannot turn that off. Notifications in the sidebar, you cannot turn that off. And so that turns off people personally about switching to Windows 11. The other reason that people wouldn't be switching to 11 is mandate. You're in a corporation. Most Windows computers nowadays are business computers. They're not personal computers. We're the exception. People that are using Windows computers at home typically have to use Windows computers at work. That's the norm. They're under a budget. Their school requires it. Their business, it's what they use at work, so they feel comfortable using it at home. Those are the use cases for Windows. And there's a lot of them. They still dominate more than 90% of the market. But 90% of the market is not consumers. That market is made up in a large portion of business customers, and those business customers have their own security policies and constraints. They even have their own in-house programs that have been tested and vetted on Windows 10 that may not necessarily work correctly under Windows 11. And so those organizations will drag their heels with their updates. So between the consumer market and the business market, the adoption rate is pitiful. Windows dominates the operating system market. Like I just said, they have over 90% of computers out there are running Windows, but only 30% of them are Windows 11. And I'm out of topics. Except maybe if you guys have any recommendations for the next week, something to read, something to watch, a website that's been helpful to you. Is there anything out there? We will roll this meeting out. We've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes, and this seems like an appropriate place where I have no more topics. And it looks like, well, Chester didn't even want to say goodbye. Okay, well, fine. Fred, you got any topics?
Not today.
All right. Well, I did not even come with any recommendations. Cheryl, you bring any recommendations today?
I've been listening to some audiobooks. I just finished The Women. Christian Hanya. Let me think how to say her name.
The Women is the title.
Yeah. It's about the women that served in Vietnam and how they were forgotten, and nobody believed that there were women in combat, and what it was is the nurses. It's a story of a girl that volunteered and was a nurse, and her post-traumatic stress disorder and her life and services to others.
Kristen
It's quite interesting.
Hannah, is that right?
Yeah.
I'm bringing it up on Goodreads right now. This is it?
Yeah, that's it. The Women.
Cool.
It's one that we're going to be reading with our San Carlos Library book club. So
You're synchronizing the computer club with your book club? No, I think that's great. That gives us other recommendations than TV shows and movies.
So, and then by the same woman, there's one called The Four Winds, and it's about the Depression. And I've been listening. I listened to both of those on audiobooks while we were traveling, and yeah, that one's good too. Really, this Kristen Hanna, when she writes, she says that she likes historical fiction. She writes historical fiction, and often it's not told from the woman's point of view. So The Four Winds, there's lots of stories out there about the men that came west and their struggles and everything, but not from a woman's point of view. So,
well, that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
and
that will lead to. I bet she'll get a movie deal at some point.
Yeah.
And
probably.
And the rest of America will be enlightened to that history.
Yeah. No, she does her due diligence, and she often has people right with her that have experience with some things, like the one I recommended before, Mad Honey. It's a really good book too.
Mad Honey, I don't remember you recommending that.
Didn't I? I thought I did. It would have been in the spring.
I'm signing into Goodreads right now to make sure that these get on our list.
Yeah.
And we'll look and see if want to read how to. Gosh, I don't even remember how to do this anymore. Where's our list?
Yeah, I just put it on mine too. Click on the want to read.
Yeah, and it should be there. I think this link should still work. Books.scclub.org. I think this should work. There we go.
Yeah.
And maybe. Oh, one on want to read.
You just put that one on.
Yeah, but it only shows it as one on one to read. There's some other
category of My Books. Isn't it called My Books at the top?
Or maybe it just, no, because it's in here. All. Recommended. I just want
when you scroll down, is Mad Honey in there?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah, because I thought I'd given it to you guys before. Maybe it's just on mine.
Yeah.
Nope, it's not in there.
I don't see it either. And The Four Winds. I'm going to just hit want to read because they're showing up on our list, but I'll have to figure out why it's different from the way we've listed the other ones.
Yeah.
And you said Mad Honey is the other?
Yeah. Let me think if it's the same. There's a couple of Mad Honeys out there, so we'll have to look it up. But
is this from the same author?
That's what I'm trying to remember.
I find one from Jody Picoult.
Oh, is there one? Yeah, that's the one. And somebody else. Jody Picoult and somebody. Yeah.
Oh, Finney. No. Jennifer.
That's the one.
Finney. This is the one? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it is on our list. It says currently reading. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's where it was. But I think in the spring I put that one on there.
Cool. Well, I'm adding all those to our recommendations, and it's Fred and Bill and you and I. I don't have any recommendations this week. If you guys don't have any more.
No mom today?
No mom today.
Yeah.
Mom's getting ready to take off and do her family reunion. So she's going to be gone for like a week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dad, I enlisted to take Emily to school this morning because we didn't have a plan for her to have a ride. And at the last minute, we realized, oh my gosh, we got to get her to school during computer club.
So school has started?
Yes, here in Alaska it has. Here in Anchorage
Okay.
it has, I should say.
And what's Em doing? Is
Em-
she?
Well, Emily is staying here for the year, and she's attending a trade center, a trade school, a vocational school that's part of the local school district.
Cool.
It is cool. It's actually, I mean, some of my history. It was a school that I attended, and at the time it's a satellite school that you would go to from your high school. If you had the grades, you would go to that school and you'd do practical learning. I did 2 years of electronic engineering, and then I purposely stayed in high school an extra year because I didn't think I was going to college. So I stayed in high school as a second-year senior and attended computers. I had a computer background to begin with, but it was all homegrown. And so I had some formal training in computers at this vocational school. And it's really the one that, it was that experience that led me on to go to university afterwards.
Cool.
One of the cool things of this school is that a number of their credits can be transferred to the university as general elective credits. So you can start whittling away that mountain of things you need for a college degree.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're excited. It'll be interesting to see what happens. She's basically done all her academics, which is like a perfect world for her because she's so sick of academics. And so she's going there half the day. She's doing IT studies, like her dad. But she's also half the day she's doing culinary and studying under her uncle, who's the chef of the school.
That'll be a good year for her. And Vivi is in Paris or not yet?
She will be. She leaves in 6 days from here. Mom's freaking out already. Mom's already missing everybody.
Has Paris been notified of this event?
Right. Yeah. Are they ready for BB is the question.
Yeah. Are they ready?
We'll have to see. I love her attitude though. She's scared but positive. She's excited but nervous. It's very cool. She does not talk as somebody that's doing anything but this plan.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. There's no backing out. There's no second thoughts. We went through that like 6 months ago for just a little bit, but other than that, it's been full speed forward.
Does she have French at all?
She does. She's been taking French for the last year in this high school she goes to. Her goal, when we got both the kids into this school in Wymus, specifically because they have a relationship with Rotary to do foreign exchanges. And so Emily was never interested in taking advantage of it, but BB has basically been getting groomed to do this foreign exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her French isn't great, but it's much better than anyone else in the house.
Wow. She's got English and Spanish background, and it crosses over a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's gonna be much more fluent than she expects.
Oh yeah. And she's there for a year?
Yeah, a long time. She goes in August, comes back in June.
What? Oh, Cheryl wants me to what happened here? You wrecked it.
Did I wreck it? Sorry.
Oh.
Scott, you can hear us, right?
Yeah, I can hear you and see you.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Well, she shut her computer down, and I was playing through my hearing aids, so she couldn't hear. She couldn't hear anything.
Anyways, you said she's over in Paris for how long?
A year.
A year?
She'll leave in August and come back in June, so just almost a year.
Oh, 10 months. Yeah. The school year. Yeah. Okay. Well, I understand you're being a little anxious about all this, so keep hugging her and send her our love.
What blows me away is that, I mean, people were doing foreign exchange students back into the 70s. And here we are with internet and instantaneous communication. I mean, it's never been like it is now. I can reach out and talk to my daughter any moment that I feel I need to.
And
So do you know who's coming to stay with you?
Yeah, she's actually already there.
Oh.
One of the reasons Yuya isn't with us now is she had to get back in time to meet the foreign exchange student that's coming. She's come from Denmark, and she's in San Carlos now, already making a name for herself.
Oh, really?
She's already been to school. She's been to the beaches. She's getting really accustomed to San Carlos.
And does she speak English and Spanish? Or?
She speaks English and she's learned Spanish, but she's strong in Dutch and in English.
In English. Okay. From Denmark, you said?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. When you're talking about communication, when I went to university was 66, 67, and I was, 5 hours from home. And the only communication that we had was I would write letters to home to my mom and dad, and my mom would write back. My father never wrote, but we didn't use the telephone. It was too expensive. It was costly. So that was our communication. I moved out and I was gone for 4 years. Basically come home about once a month for a couple of days, and that was it.
Letters and stuff. Yeah, and 40 years ago, I traveled the South Pacific, and I would phone it, like Bill said, it was very expensive. So I think I phoned at Christmas, and that was about it. But otherwise, I could send letters through Air New Zealand, because the planes, so I'd get mail when I got to my next designated flight. So.
Well, in 96, I moved to Mexico.
Yeah.
And it was a long distance phone call to Guaymas from San Carlos.
My God, yeah.
I would call my parents once every 2 weeks and have a 30-minute conversation with them, and it would cost $60.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've come a long ways in a short period of time.
When I would go home, I would ride the Greyhound to get back to university, and I would always phone my mom collect, and she would refuse the charges.
And then she would know you were coming.
No, she would know I was back.
Yeah.
That I got back safely.
She's like, I don't want to talk to him. Oh, good, you're back at school.
Yeah, exactly.
He made it safe. Yeah. Yeah.
And you say, Mom, I'm okay, before they cut you off.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Guys, I got to go. I got to cut it. You guys have a good week. Tech on, and we'll talk next Tuesday.
We will.
Go to set up our Stremio.
Tech on.
Yeah, let me know. I want to hear the Stremio update next week. Where am I? Adios, Fred. We'll talk to you
later.
Talk to you next week.
Okay. Bye.
All right, we did it again. That was our meeting. We do that every Tuesday at 10 Arizona time. No daylight savings. And that's also Sonoran time. That's the reason we've chosen that, is because we all have ties to San Carlos, Sonora in some way, and that's where my computer consulting business is located. It's International Computer Solutions, internationalcs.net. If you're looking for computer help, there's a good chance I can reach through the screen and solve your issues remotely. Get a hold of me, scott@internationalcs.net. And if you like what we did today and you're interested in more, check out our website, scclub.org. It's not very interesting. It's basically just a feed to all our YouTube videos, and you can find us on Twitter. We do very little Twitter stuff these days. You also find announcements on Tumblr. You'll find, what is it I'm trying to say? YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. So as soon as you get into one of those videos, you'll see the rest. Until next Tuesday, everyone out there in internet land, you take it easy and tech on.